Hi everyone, I'm Mimma Viglezio. I'm the editor of Tomorrow London digital showroom, and I'm going to have a chat with the lovely Charles Jeffrey of Loverboy about his new collection, Gloom, that he just launched, and about some important news about his brand that he had this week. Hello, beautiful. Look at you. You look fantastic.
Oh, thank
Hi,
you. So
Charles.
do
So
some,
nice to see you, and thank you so much for doing this in this incredible week for you. I mean, we've heard some amazing things,
yeah, no,
and
I'm really pleased.
we've seen an amazing film, we've seen good news, so great week for you. So let's start from Gloom. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. So the Gloom for me is almost like an antithesis to the previous collection that we did that was called The Healing. So The Healing was very much about sort of smiling in the face of adversity and sort of like moving forward through the pain of things that are going on in the world and just basically just trying to be positive. And I think after we had released that collection, I felt very sort of, I mean, I always kind of get a little bit of a sort of come down after each collection because, you know, it's this big build up of a body of work and, you know, you release part of yourself to the world. So there's always this sort of come down afterwards. But I think it was just because there was this kind of feeling of no hope at the time after we released the collection. You know, there was another wave that was coming, you know, Christmas was going to be cancelled. And I really did start to feel, you know, the brunt of the pandemic. And I think I just kind of like realized that, you know, it is actually important to feel these negative emotions and actually, you know, utilize them to, you know, find new ways of looking at things. So I was really drawn to the works the Midnight Paintings by Dr. Seuss, which was really fascinating because he did this whole body of work which was very sort of like melancholic and dreamy and dark, but he never really released it to the public. And I quite like the idea of somebody who's very kind of like positive and you know, dramatic, kind of doing something kind of melancholic. And I could really relate to that on a bit more of a personal level. And then from that, you know, I started getting drawn to like David Lynch movies. Like I watched Eraserhead for the first time ever, and like I loved, you know, this idea that, you know, he creates this very kind of like limbo style world. And I think for me, I just started to really kind of feel like, okay, I always like to kind of build a world in my head about when these, like how these kind of garments and these looks sort of exist in. And for me, I was like, okay, cool. It kind of feels like this word gloom really relates to it. And then we kind of use that to sort of lead into like all of the fabric developments and then the looks and stuff. So
But
the
that's
gloom.
very interesting because in a way, sorry to interrupt, in a
It's
way
fine.
you read my mind, because what I was going to ask also is, you know, now that you're doing these fashion films, because there's no show to produce and to put up, and so your film is very interesting and very deep. And so I was wondering, when you think, like when you had the idea of Gloom, is it
Mm.
more about the collection itself, the clothes, or the narration, the narrative of the film, if you
Mm.
see what I mean? And in a
No.
way, you already told me that you start from the clothes, right?
I think I start from many different places. Like I really believe like it's important to have a big body of primary research as a designer, and you know I teach this in colleges. You know, like trying to find other ways to be inspired by fashion outside of just looking at clothing itself. And I think, you know, that really helps give you your own sort of flavor, and you know it makes you kind of do things that are very different. Because I think there's a lot of like design that's going on right now that just looks the same as, like, you know, it's very
Yeah.
similar. And I think, you know, so I always like to start from a lot of different things. I mean, the film that you talk of was a film that I did with Thurston like last year, before we even concepted the Gloom, before we released the Healing,
Oh.
funnily enough, you know.
Oh.
And it was just a body of work that I wanted to do with him because, you know, he started doing film, and I just said, why don't we just do something together that has no output right now, that has no outcome, just for ourselves. And obviously it related a lot to like what the Gloom is about. It's about someone being very introspective, you know,
Yeah.
it's this very kind of like Twilight Zone space to do with repetition. And, you know, there's all these layers of like dancing that kind of represented this idea of limbo and things. And, you know, from that, I was like, okay, wow, we've got this body of work. There's no placement for it. You know, why don't we take some of the prints from this and actually like put it on the collection, as well as kind of use it to help tell this story? So, I start from like this sort of point of view, but then also like, with regards to the clothing, I always like to start from styling too. So we always do this exercise where we get a bunch of kind of, either old Loverboy, vintage, 3D manipulations that we've done in the studio, and then we just all kind of crush it together in this photo shoot so that we can actually have like some tangible, real looks to look at to then guide what the design development is later on. So, I mean, there's loads of different things that kind of come into the forefront, but I think the main thing that helps us be different and makes us really have our own look is that it comes from a primary research base.
It's funny because I was re-looking at your collection, like the actual clothes one by one this morning before this, and they're so happy. I mean, I think your collection are always making me smile because not only because of the styling when you present them, but the actual clothes. But you're talking about Gloom, and after healing, there is this down of a year that is becoming a bit too long of us all being in our cages. But actually, the clothes are very happy. And am I missing something here?
No, it's really interesting. You're not the first person to say that. Like, there's been a couple of articles that have come out being like, we think that the title is a bit misleading. And in some ways, I think that's kind of interesting because, when you make a body of work and you sort of like want to guide it in a certain way, when it's sort of reflected back to you, that's really kind of, it's really rewarding. It's very interesting. That's the whole point. You want to see how people react, because I think I class myself as quite a positive person. And even, that's why these Dr. Seuss paintings sort of really related to me, because, they are really dark and somber, but the characters that he's using to render these paintings are still these positive characters. Yeah. It's almost like this sort of weird duality and, things like anime or something, where they can communicate really dark, sometimes violent ideas, but they're these cutesy kind of characters. And I think it's something in a similar space, like, I think I've done a lot of dark shows in my time. Tantrum was a very dark show, and even Helmendu previously was quite a dark show. But the way in which I render things, my accent, like my kind of hand, is this very kind of colourful, positive way of doing things. And like, I think that's just my accent and how I design. So I think, there's ways in which I could maybe think about pushing it into other directions, but maybe I'm not. I mean, I did feel shit, but maybe I'm not feeling as shit as I'm supposed to feel.
No, but it's good. I understand. I understand where it comes from, and I totally respect, I guess, we all felt a little bit like that, but I think it's a bit your signature to make us smile. I love this Loverboy kind of, this dichotomy between what's going on inside of you, but the result is much happier than probably what you were wanting to show.
Yeah.
Before letting you go, let me ask you about this investment by Tomorrow. We're in their house right now, so I can't help but asking. I mean, this is very good news. I mean, you got a big partner, you got investment, but also probably, some mentoring. Or tell us, what do you expect? What do you want? How do you see Loverboy to develop?
Well, I mean, it's a really, really happy day. I'm so glad that we're able to actually like talk about it finally, because it's been like a year in the works. Discussions of this level like are really stringent, and it takes a very, very long time to get into the place that it needs to be. And I just, the thing that made me really drawn to Tomorrow and to Stefano was, I remember hearing him talk about, this idea that, back in the day, it was always about, a young designer just kind of thrashing it out and then being thrown into a house to then be able to make the money and then to, to be this big thing. And what he was saying is, he's like, why can't we support the designer to just be the big brand, or just not the big brand, but, just to be the kind
brand,
of the brand, the self-sustaining brand. And I just remember thinking, God, I've never really heard anyone speak like that before. And I think, what Tomorrow has done so far with brands like a Cold Wall, who, I'm friends with Samuel and Coperni, and, I think I can just see, I just saw this amazing sort of successful way of working, and I just wanted to have that for us. We were, doing very well ourselves, but there's a certain glass ceiling that you hit within, this wholesale model, and, we started to introduce direct to consumer, and I think, there's lots of things I want to do with Loverboy on a more lateral scale to allow it to have more scope. I'm interested in doing things like radio or, more movies, or even things like beauty and makeup. I mean, that's a big authentic part of what I'm about. And I just think, having someone like Tomorrow come in and be able to like take a load off of like my team too. You know,
Yeah.
we're a scrappy team of 5, and we've been like that for a while. And you know, I think a lot of people think that we are a larger company, but we're not. And I think that's just a testament to how hardworking my team are. But we deserve to have a bit of a better quality of life so we can focus more on the things that we want to focus on. So it's helping my team. You know, I wanted to grow old with my team, so it's making sure they have a better quality of life or just a bit of assistance. And also just to allow Loverboy to have a bit more scope to do things, because, you know, you do have to think laterally in order to allow for scope. So I think I'm confident and really excited about what we can do together. I mean, already just in the last couple of months since everything's been kind of like properly gelled together, we've already done some really amazing things. And you know, I love the team, and just feels like a really nice next step for us.
Great. Well, welcome to the crew. Very happy for you, and thank you for doing this with me, and congratulations. I have my eyes on that lilac coat.
Yes, we need to sort you out
Really
with
fantastic.
that. Yes, for sure.
So yeah, so we'll see more of you, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Happy
so
Easter.
much. Yes, same to
Bye.
you as well. Take care.
Bye bye.